Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Welcome, my friends, to Paranormal Heart Podcast. Tonight's segment is pre-recorded, streaming on United Public Radio Network, 107.7 New Orleans, as well as 105.3 The Golf Course. And as you already know, I'm your host, Kat Ward. Thanks so much for tuning in and taking time to hang out with us tonight. Paranormal Heart Podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and all information shared in this podcast is not professional advice. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart Podcast are not necessarily those of the show host, network, or producers. And Paranormal Heart Podcast is always respectful and courteous to all involved. So, folks, my special guest tonight was originally on my show, episode 32, and she's back now where I have over 100 episodes now. My special guest is best-selling author of 6 books who helps people visualize and access whole new worlds of possibilities, Cynthia Sue Larson. And Cynthia is host of Living the Quantum Dream on the Dream Vision 7 radio network, has a degree in physics from UC Berkeley. Oh my God, I think I just butchered that. I'm so sorry, Cynthia. And an MBA degree and a Doctor of Divinity. And there is so much more to her. So on segment 39, Cynthia will discuss communicating with pets, specifically with dogs, and how she is able to find a connection even with meeting a dog for the very first time. So please help me welcome Cynthia Sue Larson.
Yay.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
So good to see you. Yeah, it's been quite a while. Great to see you again, Kat.
Great to see you again.
You're looking wonderful.
Oh, thank you. You as well. Before we record, I said, don't you ever, you haven't changed. You still have that infectious smile. And
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say.
So, I really look forward to, because I get your newsletter. I've been reading it for the past since you were on episode 32. And now since I'm with the network, I go by segments, but it's been 165 episodes
Yes.
in total now. So I'm so happy that you're back.
Thank you.
So go ahead.
Well, the communicating with pets thing is such an interesting topic, and people may be surprised to hear me talking about it if they're familiar with my work, because I don't specifically have a book about that topic, but it is something that I do. I've been known to bring this up with strangers sitting next to me on an airplane who are very hesitant to acknowledge that there's anything to what we would call the paranormal, metaphysics, telepathy, anything like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'll say, well, are you familiar with dogs? And if they say yes, I'm like, well, listen to a few things I'd like to tell you about my experiences with dogs. Because they're just so, dogs especially, I think all animals are wide open for telepathic communication, but I think dogs have a certain kind of desire to make that connection. And so they definitely come more than halfway to meet you wherever you are. So I think it makes it a lot easier.
I wish I could communicate with my dog, Willow. She's we adopted her from Turkey a few years ago. She's part Anatolian Shepherd, part Border Collie, and she's very stubborn and very smart. I just wish I could tell her, stop barking when people come over. When we say it's okay to stop barking, stop. But she definitely understands.
Yeah. So I think it helps when you're in a partnership with a dog to understand that there's a give and take, and that what their worldview is different. There's something that's called the Umwelt, which is the sort of a body of experience that a being has. So an individual in society, like my Umwelt is different than yours, even though we're both human beings, and a dog's is quite different. But even within the species of, Canis familiaris, those friendly dogs that we love to have for pets, they definitely have a lot of variation as well. And
they do.
So finding the bridge between the Umwelt, between the worldview that I possess and the animal possesses, it's or if it's your pet, just finding the shared Umwelt there. The Umwelt is sort of a German word. It's that worldview. And so your worldview is the barking is annoying, stop it. But if you go into the mindset, the Umwelt of the dog, they're serving a protective purpose in that point. So it's something they enjoy doing. Your dog loves doing that. It's a habit. So we've got several factors going. It's a habit. They love it. And they're serving a very important function, and they know that they are. They're protecting the household.
Yes.
So then in order to bridge that gap, you need to find a way to communicate across that, so that there's not like a contest of we have to have it my way or the highway, but more like how do we find the common ground between these very different these worldviews of the dog and the human.
Yeah, I find we don't mind her barking. We actually like it because it's our burglar alarm system, But I wish we could relay to her that, well, she probably, I'm sure she understands, but she just doesn't listen. That once we say it's okay to stop barking, please stop barking. Like we know that you've told us, you've told us somebody's here. Now it's okay. Please stop.
Right. Yeah. So just finding the off switch is the key there. And I don't know what the trick would be with your dog, but there's got to be something. And I think when they find that they're doing something right by stopping and that's an action, that looks like that might be the key. Yeah. Dogs are they can be very focused on activities. And that's how I've met some dogs and had amazing communications with them immediately, even though it's not a dog that I'd ever met before. I've got so many interesting stories. Maybe I should start telling some of them because they're very convincing. I don't know which ones you're most interested in.
Any of them.
Okay, they're all really good. Okay,
well, first of all, when did you realize you were able to communicate with dogs?
It was something that I just noticed that they're very alert and they seem like they're listening to thoughts. And I had communication going with my angelic guides who told me that my angels told me when I was quite young, everyone knows what you're thinking. And so I was, in a sense, raised by angels because I believed them. And you might wonder, why would I believe that? Because my guides were telling me things about what was going on around me, and they were correct, very correct. And so I thought, okay, they know. So therefore, I guess, even though it doesn't seem like the people around me are that terribly psychic, I'm going to operate as if they are. And so what that did for me, it did something very different that I think most people are not doing. Right from a very early age, I became consciously aware of what I'm broadcasting. So if you think of yourself as a sending receiving station, at a young age, I became aware, wow, I'm sending. So I'm always sending. And most people don't think, what are they sending? They can be sending all kinds of things. Like I'm irritated. And they'll shoot you the death glare. And you know what that means. Like, okay, we know what that means. But if everybody knew, what if everybody knew, like everybody knows, they know what those private thoughts are. They're not so private. That has a very profound effect. Now, dogs already know that humans are broadcasting. What dogs are kind of looking at us humans and wondering is, don't humans notice that they're all broadcasting? Now they're kind of used to it. Like, and dogs expect a lot of us when they know that we know that we're broadcasting. And then when they notice that we're also listening, we can really get their full attention. So you might think none of this is observable to the dog. Far from the truth. The dogs totally can tell. And of course, every dog's umwelt is different. Some are much better and much more sharp. So like a dog in distress is very tuned in and very sharp. I've had a couple of experiences with a dog, like one dog in distress I met when I was on a walk near my house in a park. And I was just on my regular daily walk, and I noticed that there's a dog just dripping in the wetness of the tall grasses from its chest down. It was a medium-sized dog, looked exhausted, looked drenched with just having walked for miles, apparently. And it wouldn't let me touch its name tag. I reached for the name tag and it shied away. And it did that 2 or 3 times. And so then I telepathically thought to it, that's okay. It looks like you've come a long ways. Can you indicate to me where you came from? So I'm asking a very focused question. And I know I don't have to say this, but I can just think it. The dog knows what I'm thinking. The dog stopped, turned the dog's head, I think it's a he, in the direction of a neighboring city, which is miles and miles away. Turned facing the city of Orinda. I live in Berkeley. And I said, wow, you've come a long way. And then I just felt like it was important to let the dog know, I'm in this together with you. We will. I don't know what prompted me to say this. I did say it out loud. We're going to find your owner. We'll find home for you. Even though the dog has not let me look at his collar, all it's done is indicate I came from Orinda. And But I just felt so good about this decision. And I just walked side by side with the dog, like, yeah, that's what we're
Oh,
going to do. Yeah. And the dog could feel it too. And there's something interesting that happens when hope is renewed. I think miracles happen. So I think what happened next was a function of the fact that the dog and I were in the shared state of coherence, that we're in agreement. Like, this is what's going to happen. We're going to find the owner. And I wasn't thinking much more about it. I kind of thought that I felt like, yep, that's what we're doing. And then I was just back to happily walking along side by side with this dog. And then up above us, now we're down in the park on a trail, up above us on the road, maybe about 75 feet above us, and it's at an angle. So it's up a hill, an incline. So 25 or 30 feet over, and then 70 feet up. It's quite high up there. There's a woman jogging. And as she jogged by, she stopped and she looked so amazed. And she said, Derby? Derby, is that you? And then it was Derby. Derby just looked like, oh, and then just ran with all this energy. I don't know where it came from, right up that hill. And I said, wow. And I wanted to confirm, like, where did you come from? She said, I drove here to go on a run. I drove I live in Orinda, And I said, that's what Derby showed me. She didn't seem surprised by that. She was just so glad, like, how did you get out? What happened? Like, yeah. I don't know that part. I don't know, but it just happened within minutes. So if you're wondering what was the distance in time, I'd say maybe 10, 15 minutes tops.
Okay.
Between saying, like, okay, we'll find your owner. And I could feel the joy and the relief. It was kind of like a big sigh of relief that had happened. So if you're wondering, how did this all go down? How does this sort of miracle occur? How can you bring in the timeline that works like that?
Yeah.
It's just from relaxing and letting go, just knowing, like, yeah, we got this. And the dog trusted me, like, oh, she knows what she's doing. I didn't really know what I'm doing. And I can't even read the dog's tag. But I just felt confident, like, yeah, we got this. And sure enough. So that was super cool. That was
that's amazing.
Yeah. Love that so much.
Derby and his owner must have been so happy.
Yes. Yeah, she was just she didn't know that Derby was missing, and so she was just in astonishment, like, wow, you came all the way here. Like, yeah, Derby looks tired. Good thing you drove.
Yeah. Derby's going to for a week now.
That's miles from here. So that was a super powerful experience. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you had any connection with cats or any other animals, or is it mainly dogs?
Yeah, I've had one recently. There's a wild squirrel in the backyard. I think it's the daughter squirrel to a mother that I'd known a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. So this daughter squirrel, in February, I do my YouTube videos outdoors, usually in the garden. And so I'd set all the equipment up, and I was planning to talk about some pretty paranormal stuff related to UFOs, disclosure, and things maybe that are not ready to be discussed. Because what happened next is, I never did get to do that. It was supposed to be a 15-minute video on these topics. Mm-hmm. Instead, all my equipment refused to function. And I was out there for about 3 hours until I realized this isn't about the equipment. This is me. I can't talk about as much as I would like to say. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I backed off, like, okay, I'll keep it really blah, very vanilla. I'll keep it what people already know. That's what we're doing here. But in the midst of all that, it was me being frustrated with the equipment. So this little squirrel came down, and it's a wild squirrel. I do not feed it. I need to be clear about that, because what happened next, I have no film footage of, because the camera, as I said, was not operational. So what's happening is that my foot on the grass next to me is a squirrel frolicking as if it's like a little pet, like a pet cat. It's just like, hello, and then just doing all the cavorting and frolicking, like, aren't they adorable? Like, you're the cutest. It's just sort of like bouncing and turning and twirling and cavorting, really. There's no other explanation for it. And it would sort of look at me like, are you cheered up? And I'm like, yeah. It was just adorable. And then the squirrel went about her business, gathering things that were, I think things that had been buried through the winter months are valuable in the February month. It was still kind of cold. So digging up acorns and apples. So I know for sure those have been buried in the garden, because I find the acorns sprouting and I see the apples get buried. So, and previously I'd been out meditating with, and the squirrel did come back. She came back, the same squirrel, when 3 hours is a long time. And so maybe at the hour and a half or 2 hour mark, she climbed up the tree next to me, got as close to me as possible on a branch, and dangled as close as she could get. I
Oh,
get like a little pet monkey, kind of like, hello.
oh,
So cute.
cute.
So sweet.
Oh,
So much love. And I just felt like, oh, this is just for me, clearly. Like, cheer up. And you're having a hard time with whatever you're doing, but I'm here.
oh. Have
So
you seen the
sweet.
squirrel again,
Mm.
other than those 2 times?
Yeah, this morning she was out in the
Oh,
backyard under
okay.
that same, it's a cedar tree, so she's fine. Yeah, I see her. She doesn't usually make a show of coming right to me. That's an unusual behavior.
Hmm.
Again, I'm not feeding the squirrel.
Yeah.
With with her mother a few years ago, I think it was her mother, I had been meditating in the garden for quite a while and just totally still, just not even making any noise at all for like maybe 30, 40 minutes, quite a long time. And so I was watching the mother squirrel, not this one from February in 2025, but back in 2023 or whatever. That squirrel had been burying the apples in the fall, and I'd been watching her do that.
Hmm.
And then I finally realized, okay, I do need to go in the house. It's getting kind of chilly or whatever, like time to go inside. So I very slowly and carefully stood up, and she saw I was there then. And I think I'd surprised her because I had been so still. And then when I came back to look in the garden just a few minutes later, she'd been picking apples off the tree and burying the little ones. She picked the biggest apple off the tree and put it right at the foot of the chair where I'd been sitting. It was the
Oh,
best, most perfect apple from the tree. She carried it all the way, and it's heavy for a squirrel. I mean,
well,
we're talking an
yeah.
apple that's big compared to her body. She brought it
Yeah.
all the way there. So yeah, these are very telepathic wild animals. So it's not just dogs. And I've had interactions with birds too and lots of other animals. But dogs are special because they understand what we humans are capable of doing and they expect a lot of us
Yep.
as a result. They have high standards for us. And I've seen that in action as well. A couple of times. In one case, I was visiting a friend who was living in Las Vegas with another friend of mine, Susan, and John had a couple of dogs, a girl dog that was white, and she didn't have very much fur. And then these are both mongrel dogs. They were, I don't know what breed they were, no
Okay.
specific breed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And her companion dog, I guess it's an older dog, was Rusty, and he had very long matted fur, which had not been washed or
Hmm.
brushed in I don't know how long. And so at some point, I told Susan, well, we're staying here. And John was sweet to allow us to stay in his place for free. Why not? It would be nice if maybe I could give Rusty a bath. Looks like Rusty could use a bath. And Susan said, I don't know about that. You know, Rusty doesn't like anyone. The reason he's not brushed is because John said that dog doesn't let anyone touch him. And I
Hmm.
said, well, let me give it a try. And Susan said, I'll take pictures. And I think she thought it was funny and she'd get pictures of me being attacked by a dog. I don't know what she was thinking. Well, anyway, that's not what happened. I was just constantly sending reassurances to Rusty, like would you like to look beautiful, the best you've ever looked? And Rusty looked up at me like, really? And I just kept showing images mentally, just like beautifully clean, fluffy fur, perfectly
Oh,
coiffed and trimmed and everything. And Rusty would just sort of relax. And I thought, we can do this. So then I would telepathically show the water temperature will be like this. And I'd think it, and I'd say it was calm voice, and then it would be exactly that. And so it was a very unfamiliar routine for Rusty, not used to anything like this. So this was done outdoors on the patio. It's Las Vegas, so it's a warm day. And the whole process went like that with just lots. I'd stop if Rusty looked like getting anxious, and I just
yeah.
explain, now this is the soap, and I'd think it through, and I'd say what it was, and then it would be exactly what I thought and what I said. So
Hmm.
this is what's reassuring to a dog when everything matches. There's nothing surprising.
Learn to
And that,
trust you.
yeah. And then explaining about the scissors in the back, like we're going to trim the back end because there's all kinds of stuff back there. And so it'll be fine. And just everything. And it all went very smoothly, long story short.
Hmm.
And Rusty indeed ended up gorgeous.
Oh,
But then when Rusty's owner came home, it changed the dynamics between the girl dog and Rusty because the girl dog was the good one. She was always clean because her fur was extremely short, like a
yeah.
quarter of an inch long.
Oh, wow.
And Rusty's fur was like an inch and a half long, or maybe 2 inches long fur. But now he looked beautiful. And so he was just acting like I belong to sit here on the good part of the sofa. And
Yeah.
then when John came home, Rusty snarled at him and he said,
Oh,
"What's that?" But I was explaining to John, you're making fun of Rusty. You've said jokes about him. Rusty hears all of that.
Oh.
And it's very, it's detrimental to his self-esteem. You might not think a dog has self-esteem, but they do.
They do, yep.
He gained quite a bit of self-dignity and respect. Just feeling like, okay, I'm well groomed. I look good, and I need to be treated with respect. And so I said, that's what it is, John. Don't make the jokes about stuff hanging off the back end of the dog. For one thing, it's gone, and it should, for another, that's not nice, and the dog doesn't benefit from it. It's not funny. So, yeah. So it's a teaching opportunity.
Do you know if John stopped making fun of the dog now?
This was years ago, and John's passed away now. But I think that did make a difference. Yeah, I think so. I like to think so.
Yeah, that's just amazing. It's just like sometimes I'm just sitting there in the living room, thinking of whatever, and then my dog will come up to me, and she just kind of, how dogs kind of tilt their heads when they're curious about something, and she'll just do that, and I'm like, what? So it makes me think maybe she's picking up on my thoughts.
Yes, and it's a good opportunity. Dogs do hold us to a high standard. They see us doing things that is like the stuff of gods. They expect a lot. We had a pet dog that would expect that I could change the weather, and I'm laughing because I would say, like, why are you thinking that? I could read his mind. He's like, I'm sick of this rain. He'd be thinking to me, like, that's enough of this. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? And he loved being outside, but not when it's raining. And he said, well, you can change it. And I'm like, this is what he's thinking to me. And at first I was just laughing about that. Like, I haven't done that since I was a kid. And then I realized, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then I realized that my dog is showing me, like, you can totally do that. And so absolutely. Wow. Yeah, it's very good. And that particular dog, his name was Prince Moonshadow. My daughter named him when she was like 9 years old. He also was very good at finding things. Even if he was outdoors when the object was lost inside the house, he could telepathically, I could just put my forehead to his forehead and just get a very clear image, like, oh, I know where this object is. Very valuable skill to have. And that was one of the jobs that he felt like he had. So your dog, when they're tilting their head and looking at you, keep in mind, they know you can do a lot more than you even know that you can do. That's number one, because they're watching you all the time. And they probably observe things that you might not be aware of. And number two, it's like, yes, they can read those thoughts that you're thinking. So you can start, maybe put your forehead to their forehead and maybe not get words, but just get an image of, like, what are you trying to say to me? I'd love to know. Can you share it with me?
If she lets me, because my kids can go and hug her. But when I try to go hug her, she just kind of goes like this. And I'm like, wow, you follow me everywhere as I go in the house, but you won't let me hug you? Like, why?
It feels to me, just telepathing into it, that there's an expectation that you two share a common job in the house, and it's very special, that there's something that you're doing that the dog is also in training for, or part of, in support of. And it feels like, hey, I'm on duty here, like, this is no time to hug. We're doing that thing we do. We're checking for ghosts, or I don't know what, but there's definitely something going on.
I'm gonna have to try and work with her and see if I can figure it out.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Dogs love to know what the order of things is, and they love to know that they're operating, even if they're a wild dog, they like to be part of a pack, and they like to be, and if they choose to move, like, I met a pack of wild dogs in Maui when I was staying at a vacation home for some friends. They'd gotten married in Hawaii, and they were doing the drive around. So the very far point of Maui, it's like where there's hardly anybody living there. I forget what they call it. It's the road to Honolulu or something. I don't know. It's a long road. I can't remember the name of it now. It's definitely a famous road on Maui. And so we got to the far point of the island, and I didn't see people there much at all. It seemed like we were the only ones even in a vacation rental home. But it was up off the ground to be safe in the event of big waves or flooding. That was the design of the house. And it was surrounded by a lot of property and wild sort of jungle, like tall grasses and bushes. And then there was a road with a little moat. Like, to get to the road, you'd go through a closed gate, a very tall gate with a key code sequence that you have to punch in. And it goes over a bridge, and there's this huge moat that goes all the way around. I thought, wow, this is really strange. set up. But I thought it's early in the morning. I'll go harvest some fresh guava fruits that I saw on the trees out on the road. So everybody else was still asleep. And I went out in the morning and thought I'll just fill up my t-shirt, like a big basket of guava fruit. So that's what I was busy doing. When I noticed, I could see to my right, there was a big pack of like 12 or 15 wild dogs coming slowly toward me in a formation. They were just all together, led by a very muscular female and very smart, very focused. And I thought, oh boy, what's going on here? So immediately I stopped harvesting the guava. I turned to look at I looked at her. Dogs have structure, especially even in a wild pack. It's very clear who's in charge. She's in charge. And she sent an image to me mentally that she wanted to go into the yard at the house I was staying at. She's asking me permission, knowing I'm a human that's staying there. She knows this. She knows I'm from that house. So she knew all this right away. And I'm like, wow. And it had not conferred with any of the other humans. And I'm thinking, well, it could work. The yard's big. There's acreage here. And I'm thinking to her, you could be yard dog for the day if that. And I had barely even gotten the thought out of my mind. And she jumped the 5-foot fence, cleared the entire moat, cleared the other 5-foot fence, and landed into the bush and just ran into there. The rest of the pack is just, they sort of sat down waiting for her to return. And I'm furiously typing in the key code so I can get through the gate. I can't jump a 5-foot fence, clear the moat. I'm like, and then fortunately, there's another animal communicator up the stairs. Fortunately, she's awake. So I shout up to her, hello, I just made an agreement with this. Do you see that dog in the yard? That wild dog? I just made a deal. She's yard dog for the day. And she's very excited about it. But the agreement is yard dog, not in the house. So if I know she's excited, she's going to say thank you or something. When she comes up the stairs, just remind her, like, hey, yard dog for the day. Yep. And so and that's how fast that dog was moving, because sure enough, the dog did. It ran like the full length. We're just talking acreage here. I don't know how wow. She was just zooming, all muscle. And then she came tearing up the stairs. And then my friend at the top said, yard dog for the day. And so she was just like all happy. It was just that thank you kind of a thing, like, thank you. But she looks terrifying. I said, it's a good dog. You'll see her heart when you see her. And she's sincere. She's got integrity. It'll be fine. So it was fine. But that's another remarkable experience. I've just had so many amazing. Yeah.
Wow. I've been able to, my dad and I went to visit my grandparents many years ago in British Columbia, and the backdoor neighbor to them, my dad and I went to say hello, and they had a Doberman Pinscher, and they opened the door and the dog's growling, and I love Dobermans. And she's growling, and I looked at her and said, oh, come on, we both know that's just for show, and you're very sweet. And she stopped, and she tilted her head, and she followed me everywhere as I went into the house. And then I was sitting in the living room, and she was sitting on me, a big Doberman on me. And I'm like, what are you doing? She's just quite content. And then the wife said, that's her chair. She doesn't let anybody sit in her chair. And I was just like, okay. We were both sharing it. But it's just, the intent that I sent the dog at the time is like, we both know.
Yes.
And she just kind of like, huh, this human knows this.
Yes. Yeah, that's another great experience I had, was a Doberman Pinscher experience where my older daughter was house sitting. Well, no, her friend, was house sitting. I don't think she was the one house sitting. So she was visiting a friend who was house sitting where they had a Doberman Pinscher. And so a bunch of teenagers were there. And I think I was there to pick up my daughter. I'm trying to remember, why was I even there? I think that's why. But when I approached the house, there was a gate in the front that was latched, and in the yard was a Doberman Pinscher. And I like you, I could just see the heart and the spirit of the dog instantly, like, aw. And so I just said, it's just going to take me a minute. I'm thinking telepathically and saying some of what I'm thinking, which was, I'm here to just get my daughter. I'll just be coming in and getting her, and then we'll leave. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. You'll still be here, etc. Nothing else is changing. Just one person's leaving. I'll go in, 2 people will go out. That's it. And so I'm thinking that, and then I'm just still struggling with the gate. Like, man, this thing is awkward. And I'm just, so I'm looking at the Doberman who's still at attention standing. And I said, sit, because I knew that when I start opening the gate, it was a weird creaky thing. And it looked awkward. I wasn't sure what it was going to do when it opened. So I started swinging it open, and sure enough, the Doberman sat, and it was sitting perfectly. was looking very, very alert and sitting. And I shut the gate behind me. I'm still thinking to it. Now I'm going to walk to the front door. And I'm thinking, you can come with me. So now it's at perfect heel position. I'm not saying heel. I'm not even thinking heel, but it's healing. We get to the front door, which was slightly ajar. So I go in. The dog's now trotting along at heel, perfect heel position right next to me. And we walk in together. And then there was all this laughter and noise when we first came through that open door. Now it goes silent. And all the teenagers are looking at me like how are you doing that? And I said, doing what? And they said, how are you doing that with the dog? Like, why is it healing perfectly? And I said, I'm just talking clearly with it. I'm thinking clearly. And I said, if it's this dog's perfect. And I said to the dog, sit. And then the dog sat right there with everybody silent. Everyone's just silent. Like, that dog doesn't obey anything. And so I was explaining, the dog is reading everything you're sending. You're always sending. So probably what's happening is you're not coherent with what you're sending. And if you're sending a lot, teenagers, what are they doing? It's a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So they had not had the experience of that the dog could do anything. That dog was perfect. I mean, that was like, I've seldom see it. Well, it's a Doberman. So a well-trained Doberman. I mean, that's going to be a pretty top flight dog. And it definitely was. It was purebred Doberman and very, it would just love to be in service at that level and to be appreciated. Like, yeah, this is a perfect heel. It knows I'm noticing. Like, that's a perfect heel. Like, yeah. And I'd say sit, sat, like there's no hesitation. Like, that's a perfect sit. And the teenagers were like, what? And I needed to take my daughter home, so I didn't explain everything. But I think just for them to witness it, and I was saying the dog hears everything you're thinking. You're always sending. I think that's the big piece that people sometimes don't factor in, as well as take care to really listen and don't let your own noise clutter what you're hearing.
Yeah, because we all get what's the word I'm looking for? Busy with our own thoughts in our own world, and sometimes we just don't pay attention to creatures around us, whether it's humans or animals, and that's probably. I'm assuming the dog just finds that odd. That why are you so? Your thoughts are so chaotic.
Yeah, and they do expect a lot of us. I mean, or they can. And some of them are aware that we're capable of much more. It's like if you see a demigod and like you could be doing so much. Why are you watching TV and eating potato chips? You who can master the weather. What are you doing? Not that I'm sitting on the couch and eating potato chips.
Were you watching me the other night? Oh, we have a couple of cats too, and we sometimes put them in the backyard. They don't leave; they just go out the backyard. And if it's raining or snowing, one of the cats in particular will go out, want to come back in, and then 5 minutes later want to go outside again. It's like it's the temperature and the weather hasn't changed. Why do you want to go out? And maybe that's what they're thinking, that we're going to change the weather.
Yeah, cats.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, cats are very, very adept sometimes at healing. That purr that they do and the vibratory frequency they're so facile at entering, it's very healing and nurturing for humans. And obviously that theta state that they're entering is very powerful for like reality selection. And that's the kind of thing I usually write about would be reality shifts, quantum jumps, the Mandela effect.
Yep.
But animals are tuned in. And if any animal knows that this can happen and humans are definitely having a lot to do with it, it's going to be cats. So sure, they're going to be like, okay, you know how to do that thing you do, or next time you open the door, we know the weather's going to be better, right? So, okay, we'll try this again in 10 minutes. See if you can do better.
See if you can do better. Yeah. I love that. Do you think animals are aware of the Mandela effect? Or is that just a human thing?
Well, to the degree, if you consider the Mandela effect sort of a collective alternate memory situation, it depends on the animal. I think a lot of animals are not necessarily tuned in enough to know the difference between a true memory and something I don't think they're following what we think of as history. We care a lot more about that stuff than animals do.
Yeah.
But they might notice that their pain can be gone if you love like the dog or cat. We had that pet dog I was talking about, Prince Moonshadow. He was just the right size that I could put my left arm over his front left leg, my right arm over his front right leg, and then my heart would just be over his back, and he would just bliss out, just because I'd be sending so much love. I'd just say, I love you forever, love you always. And he would just be just like, just receiving that. So that kind of state of receptivity is a very powerful thing. And from that standpoint, they do know that state of love and that coherence, like with Derby finding his owner, as soon as I said, we're going to find your owner, Derby believed me, because Derby could tell, like, this lady has a good track record. It's maybe not knowing that the Mandela effect or reality shifts or anything like that, but just knowing, like, when she says something, it usually happens. Like, and she seems certain, okay, we're good. And then Derby could, and as soon as Derby relaxed, I think that's what dialed in that new reality. So, could I open the door and the weather's different for your cat? I don't know, but it's exactly the same mechanism of what's going on with physics. And I think to some degree, the dogs do know, and they know that when they need something and they've got support, it's more likely to happen. If they're alone, that's got to be scary. It's like alone, away from home, lost. That was a tough time for Derby.
Oh, poor little Derby.
But definitely seemed happy just to see how confident I was. Like, we got this.
Yeah.
I just feel it, when you see a dog just go like, and the weight of the world is gone, even though he still looks bedraggled and exhausted.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a good moment. So, yeah, maybe your cats are asking you something like, let's try that again.
Yeah. I don't understand. Sometimes you open the door and it's nice out. And other times, no, I don't get it.
Let's do that one.
Yeah.
The other reality, not this one.
Yeah. So what other experiences have you had with dogs?
Oh, quite a few. When I was growing up, we had a pet dog that I named Happy, and he was I think that was my earliest dog, learning how telepathic dogs can be. He was a mix, Irish setter, Springer Spaniel. Maybe that's all it was, those two, but it was a very interesting mix. And he was a very good smell dog. I didn't do hunting or anything, but I'd play hide and seek with him. And so I'd let him stay at one end of the yard where he couldn't see what was going on. And then barefoot, I would then intentionally leave a barefoot trail of where I'm going. And I noticed I could telepathically communicate with him, but I would be doing the opposite of telepathically showing him anything when I'm hiding.
Yeah.
So this is another piece of it. Like, when you're working with telepathy, you want to practice, can you be in concealment too? And so it's like, okay, I'm somewhere. And I would call his name, like, okay, come, Happy. And then it was so much fun. I loved, my favorite thing was to just leave a fancy trail on the ground and then eventually climb a tree. Because then from the tree, I can watch the whole thing. And it was so much fun. It was like, this is exactly where I walked. But I'm not laughing out loud. I'm very quiet and I'm just watching. Yeah, he was great. And he would telepathically communicate with our cat. We had a cat that would be patrolling the yard, not neutered cat. This cat was kind of a king of the jungle kind of cat, Gabriel. And he didn't like other cats in our yard. But and if they came in, then he'd fight with them. But one time, well, so there are several funny stories with Happy and Gabriel, but this was one of the best. Because Happy would wait sort of at the edge of one fence, and he would be silent, like me in the tree. He would not make it, like, there's no dog in this yard. It's completely quiet. So there'd be all this and all the noise of cats. And then he'd just wait and wait and wait for it. Then finally, here comes Gabriel over the fence. He's still silent. He's waiting. And then the other cat comes over the fence. Oh, no. And then woof, 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 woof. And that's hilarious. Yeah. And then Gabriel would be just sitting there, like, smug, like, perfect system.
That's awesome. Oh,
yes.
wow.
So pets are telepathic with each other. They're telepathic with us. There's something about the sending, the receiving, and the concealment factor. And then concealing from other animals too, who may just not be paying attention. And of course, there's a special bond when you're two pets that share the same household, like Happy and Gabriel did. So yeah, and with Happy, it was really interesting because that's when I really started noticing I could just think things to him. And like my angels, he knew what I was thinking. So I didn't need to say, all the commands out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilized that same principle working with Prince Moonshadow, that a very telepathic pet, you can just, like he would learn new tricks when we were on walks, such as learning to jump over a fallen tree. That's something he'd not done before. And it was difficult at first because he was the size of a German Shepherd, but with long, fluffy fur, kind of like a Belgian Tervuren. He was a mutt that we got adopted at the shelter. But thanks to the telepathic connection, he trusted me. And there were so many successes that when we finally did sort of a dog agility course as part of something the city was doing, I could just telepathically show him something he'd never done, which none of the other dogs were succeeding at. But I thought, oh, he can do this because he's so telepathic. So I just send an image like, this is a collapsed parachute. You're just going to run right through it and you'll come out the other end. Now, when other dogs would try it, they'd go in and then they'd panic. Like it's just like a collapsed, it looks like a tent that caved in, and they just come right back out the way they came in. But Prince Moonshadow believed me, and he just barreled right through that thing. And just like I showed him, just keep going straight through and you'll come out the other end. And he did. And the people at the course were just amazed, like, wow, he's really good at this. And they wanted to give him a treat, but he never ate treats when he would only eat treats when he was resting and not doing things. So I think your dog is that way when your dog's following you, by the way. I think it's in work mode. It's kind of like I'm not hugging, no treats, no, it's like maybe a treat, but I'm on patrol here.
She loves her treats. Oh.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, for your dog. Our dog wouldn't do the treat. Like, I'm really working here. We'll do the food later, Yeah.
It's funny, if we're out, like at the vets or whatever, and they try to give her a treat, she won't eat it. She won't eat it in the car. She'll only eat it at home.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very focused dog and aware that, we just do this at home. It's otherwise it's an awareness that I'm on, at the vet, I'm in the car, I'm doing things, I'm on patrol. And dogs love to have a job. And I think when people understand that, then some of the so-called problem behavior can clear up. Like when you're thinking to the dog, like, okay, you have a job, this is what it is. And you can ask your dog at the end of when you come home, like if you've been gone, you can say, what's the report? Even if that's the job, like what happened? And you can practice listening and see if you get it right. And funny stuff, what they think is important. Remember the welt we started the whole show with? Well, they can say things that to you it's like, like who cares? But for the dog, this is very important. Yeah. Like some people walked by and they stayed there for the longest time, and then their little dog was really annoying and it wouldn't go away. And then they finally left, like, that's the report. Like, okay, thank you.
Good job.
Good job.
Wow.
And then our dog, Prince Moonshadow, would say the rudest things.
I love that name, Prince Moonshadow. I'm sorry. I just love that name.
It was a funny name. Yeah, we subsequently found people that named, like, a woman pulled over with her car full of kids, and she said, how's Prince Moonshadow? And I said, well, he's passed on or whatever. Aww. She said, we named our cat after him. I said, the whole thing? She said, yes.
Oh, wow.
Prince Moonshadow. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he was a very special dog. And I had one woman come to our front door. She rang the doorbell and she said, I'm here to tell you that your dog, Prince Moonshadow, is very special. And I said, yes, I know. And she said, no, he's very, very special. And to this day, I wish I'd really drawn out what was she getting at, because he was extremely, like I said, very psychic, a good sender, a good receiver. He would know what we're buying at the grocery store, if we picked up a dog bone at the butcher's or not. If we had one, then as soon as the car is not even parked, he'd be barking like crazy, like, oh gosh, you have the bone, I'm ready. Like, oh man. Very funny. Yeah, so many good stories just about Prince Moonshadow. But I think having that kind of a connection with a pet is so special, because it can go much deeper than people usually allow it to go. And it can show you aspects of yourself that you might never have seen. And it can expand, like you're interested in the paranormal. They're good. I'd say the odds are excellent that your dog is sensing things that you'd love to know more about. So if you ask, you can say, like, I'd love the paranormal report and I'm interested in these kind of things. And for sure.
Yeah.
You can get really good information from your dog.
Well, like the
And,
other day, I thought, she wanted to go out, and she was really like, come on, I gotta go." So I tried to open the patio door, but she went down to the basement, and I'm like and she would come up, and she'd go back down. I'm like, "Okay, obviously you're trying to tell me something," and she's going all over the basement and then peek and look at me and keep on going, and she did that 2 or 3 times, and I was just like, "Okay, there's gotta be something down here that I'm not sensing." Never figured out what it was, but she'd never done that before or since.
wow. And that you can ask her about that. You can say, remember that time.
Yeah.
Dogs can remember, and she'll remember that time. And you can just telepathically remind her. And then you can ask the telepathic question, do you want to share more? I'm ready to listen now. Can you
Mhm.
share more about what was there? And if she's interested and if she feels like it's important, she will. If she feels like, what was this? Then like, okay, she's moved on.
Yeah.
But if she looks at you like tilts her head, like you really want to know, like, yeah, I really want to know. And she tilts her head some more, like, yeah, I'm really listening. And then just she may not be used to you listening, but I think she is, because obviously you're talking to her, and that's a good start. And
Hmm.
I think you're listening well enough that she knows that you're going to make an effort to listen with your heart, like,
Mhm.
and to trust what you know how to do it. It's like you want to trust the first impressions you get, no matter how
Yep.
crazy they seem. Like, well, that may be right. Yep,
Yep.
probably is. And I think she knows what you do. She knows your interests. So you can probably bet your bottom dollar that this was something paranormal that she was tuning in on.
Oh,
And
I know it had to have been. I just don't know what. But it wasn't anything bad because she didn't, bark or growl or anything. She just wanted to see what it was and bring it to my attention. I just don't know what it was
and for
or
that
who.
kind of thing, yeah, for that, if I don't know how old your house is, my house has had previous owners,
Oh, yeah.
including yeah, some that have passed away, not necessarily in the house.
Mhm.
Um, but when I first moved into the house, the first night I was here, I did meet a ghost of the man who had recently died in the house, and I don't think he knew he was dead. So, and I wasn't horrified by it. I was startled, like, oh my goodness, he's standing. I could see the silhouette in the door between the kitchen and the dining room, and
Mhm.
he was looking at me like he's thinking, "Who are you?"
Why are you in my house?
Yeah, and I thought, "I'm the new owner, and you must be. Oh, hello." And then I thought to him, "Your wife has sold the house. She's moved to Southern California with her children. I think you can find her there." And then he just sort of faded. But I could see. But it was so cool because I could see him walk and stand, and he stood as soon as he saw me, just like the way a person would if they saw you. Like, what are you doing in my house?
Yeah.
And so it's possible that your dog was noticing a friend. That's to me a friendly spirit. That's someone who just like, I'm dead. Like, yeah, you're dead. No problem. You're not gone. You're just dead. And
Yeah.
good news, your family is in Southern California. You can join them if you wish. I'm sure they'd love to dream with you and feel your presence. I'm sure they love you.
Oh, this is just so amazing. How can some people not believe in this?
Lack of experience and maybe fear. Some people, they just put a
Oh,
wall up of fear, like, I just can't deal with this. They can barely handle what's going on. I can't take anything more, is how they
yeah.
feel. But to me, this is help. This is assistance. This is support. These can be your best friends if you can hear your angels, if you can talk to animals,
Mhm.
and the earth, and just everything is capable of talking with us, and everything basically comes with subtitles if you allow it to speak to you.
Oh, I like that. Subtitles.
Yeah.
No one's ever explained it like that before. I like that.
Yeah. So even if they're not talking and there aren't words, then just go into your heart. What are you feeling?
Mm.
And because a lot of like nature spirits don't necessarily use words,
Yep.
but they'll have such a presence, and the idea is unmistakable. Like, wow, this is a
Mhm.
powerful message.
So we have time for one more story from pets, so, anything you wanna mention?
Yeah. Let's see. So many good ones. I'm trying to think. It's no pressure. Um, well, often I love meeting dogs that I've never met before, and I notice how telepathic they are. Because if I feel so much love for them that they can feel it too. And this is one of
Mhm.
the things that make dogs so special. So if people are listening and they want to practice something, here's something you can do. even if you don't own a dog, no problem. As long as you're not afraid of them and you're willing to try something fun, when you see next time you see a dog that you would like to meet, just let your heart just open with as much love as you can feel. And it's okay to smile at the dog and just feel. You can even think the thoughts, I love you. You're just beautiful. So glad to see you here today. And when you're sending that message, I notice when I do this, dogs will definitely stop. They'll usually turn their head and look at me. They might kind of go grin, you know. If they're free to do so, they'll usually approach me. If they're on a leash, then their owner may be wondering what the hell what is going on.
Okay. It's
Well,
okay.
it could upset the owner if the dog's on the leash and they don't want the dog going your direction. So
Yeah.
it's good to be mindful of the whole situation. But if the dog is free to roam, and if you're okay with it visiting you, you can telepathically call it right to you just from the love in your heart alone and a smile on your face. And if you want to say these things out loud that you're thinking, that gives it gives a coherence to your entire message. The goal with animal communication when you're sending is to be aligned with your head, your heart, and your gut. So it's just one message. It's not like I'm afraid of dogs, but I'm calling you here because Cynthia said to do it. They're going to know that's not good.
Yeah.
And they're not going to come. They're like, Cynthia said to do, who's that? And you're afraid of dogs? Hi.
Yeah.
But if it's just full on blast of you're a gorgeous dog, I know your heart is so good, like what you did with that beautiful Doberman Pinscher. And I had a similar experience when I was in a friend's home, just sitting on their sofa. One quick story. So I just sat on the sofa, and this is a fun one. So I'm doing that thing with the heart, like just love you. And it was a cute little tiny miniature Chihuahua, little Mexican, very ancient. He looked like he reminded me of like Yoda, if Yoda was a Chihuahua. Very, very wise Chihuahua, old and tired and kind of creaky and very small. Couldn't even jump on the sofa. And so my friend and her daughter were in the kitchen making tea, and I'm just sitting alone on the sofa. And then here comes this cute little dog that I'm just thinking he's cute like Yoda. And he's coming right to me, and I'm just beaming love at him like I just described. He's coming right to me, and he needs a hand up. Clearly, he can't jump. He can't do anything about the sofa. So I just reached down and give him an elevator lift and put him next to me. And he steps onto my lap, and his eyes close, and he just blisses out and falls asleep. And then when my friend and her daughter come in, they don't quite drop the tea, but almost. And they said, he's asleep in your lap. He doesn't sit with anyone. But all I was doing is what I just described.
Yeah.
And appreciating this dog is so wise and such a revered elder. You know, I'm just revering him like he is Yoda. Like, what a wise soul we have here. And he really appreciated it. He felt so safe. Like, yes, thank you. You know, this is me, and thank you for appreciating this. And I am tired too. And if you don't, I'll just bask in this love. Like, yes, thank you. And we were just enjoying this. It was both of us really savoring it, because what a gem of a dog he is. I mean, what an elder, beautiful being. So very tiny, not the same at all as a Doberman in your lap.
Yeah. That was uncomfortable having a Doberman on my lap in that little chair, but I let her.
But the memory is precious, right? It's just so
Definitely,
pure, it's treasure. And I think that's what pets give us, is the ability to start seeing ourselves, and in the ability of ourselves. If when we start seeing with the eyes of our heart, then we can see who these beings are. Like you saw the Doberman, and I'm seeing this cute little mini Yoda Chihuahua.
Yeah.
And the little Yoda Chihuahuas. Yes, this is me. I am. So sweet.
Oh, I could just picture that. That's so adorable.
Yeah, really cute.
I just want to share one quick thing before I get you to tell the listeners where they can find you. I was at the grocery store. This happened a couple of times. I'm sitting in my vehicle waiting for my family member to come from the grocery store, and I see somebody walking with a dog, and I'm just sitting there, and I look at the dog, and the dog's just walking, and I'm thinking, what a gorgeous, gorgeous dog. And all of a sudden, it looks towards me, looks away, but then looks towards me again, and he wants to come over. But the owner, and that makes more sense now. At first, I thought, well, why does that dog want to come over here? But yeah, that makes more sense.
You're sending such a strong pull
Yeah.
message, and maybe more love than it usually gets from its own family. It's possible.
I hope that's not the case, because that's sad.
I hope not too.
Yeah.
But in that moment, definitely more than they were giving it you were giving it a lot more love and attention.
Yeah.
Like, and dogs notice. Boy, do they notice. I think they're meant to be with humans. They're part of our family. Yeah. They're special.
We're all part of the pack.
We are.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have any final thoughts before you mention where people can find you?
Yeah. So if people are looking at the world today and feeling like the reality is not the one you think it should be, just remember your thoughts are very powerful. Just like you can call a dog to you, you can also call another timeline, another reality to you. An easy way to do it is with the thoughts you're asking, just in questions that you're carrying around with you. So if you find yourself thinking like, oh my gosh, how much worse can this get? Or bad things come in 3, I would recommend cancel on that. And instead ask, how good can it get for myself and for all concerned? And if you just need to know that, like, I need to know, how good can it get? I need to know, I need to live that. Then nature answers that call, just like dogs do. All of nature we're just looking at a microcosm today of animals, but if you look at the full reality, all of reality is listening to you, and all of reality will listen when you say, how good can it get? And then you'll get to find out.
Well said. Thank you. So where can the audience find you?
My website is RealityShifters.com, and I also have a newsletter that goes out once a month. It's currently on Substack, so if you're on Substack, you can find me there. I'm on YouTube with my name, Cynthia Sue Larson. I'm on Facebook and X, used to be Twitter, and Instagram. But the best would be the website, and that is RealityShifters.com, so you can hear about. I'm doing one live retreat this year, 2025. It'll be Crestone, Colorado, which is a hotbed for UFO activity. We'll be doing some CE5 viewing with 2 other UFO experiencers, including Paula Harris, who's the one who interviewed Commander Corso, and a French person from Paris, Julien Chameroy, who's also an experiencer. So the 3 of us have had experiences, and we'll be talking about oneness, consciousness, and this new reality that we're all co-creating together with non-human intelligences, which include animals, plants, and other beings.
Wow, that's amazing. I wish I could go.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun.
Sounds like it. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate you being on the show again. I can't believe this much time has gone by already.
It's going so fast. But
it has.
We're living through exciting times, for
Yes.
sure.
Well, if you hang tight, you're very welcome. If you hang tight, I'll say my farewells to the audience, and then I'll just jump back in and we can have a quick discussion if you have time.
Yes.
And okay.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Oh. Thank you to my special guest tonight and UPRN 107.7 New Orleans and 105.3 The Gulf Course. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please support us by liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. And another way to help support the show is by grabbing some swag. If you'd like to pick up your very own Paranormal Heart podcast mug, if you're watching the video, you can see it right here. Just message me at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. Until next time, take care of each other. Much love to you all.